I guess we got a video here that we're gonna react to. This one was posted by Asmongold today, and it's called "Something Insane Happened Today." Obviously, this video was posted in wake of the events at Utah Valley University yesterday surrounding Charlie Kirk. So we're just gonna get right into it and see what his take is.
Hey guys, it's me again, and it's been a little while. Just before I get into the main topic of the video, I want to explain why there haven't been any videos. My dad has been in the hospital for the better part of a week now. Very serious situation. It has required my full attention. And because of that, I've been on calls, I've been dealing with other people, talking to members of the family, and doing everything that I need to be there for my dad.
Yeah, anyone that knows anything about Asmongold, which I'm sure is a lot of you, because there's a lot of Asmon haters out there, um, they know that Asmongold's dad is suffering from cancer, and that his health has gone kind of bad lately. So the fact that Asmongold is stepping away from that situation to respond to this alone should tell you something about the seriousness of the situation with Charlie Kirk and what's going on. This is a man that never misses a stream, that posts on his channels 4 to 5 videos a day, and pretty much is always active in the political space, who has been taking a complete hiatus for quite a while now. But let's keep going.
For my family during this situation, and because of that I haven't been live and I haven't made a lot of videos. I apologize for that. Hopefully I'll be back as soon as possible. That being said, we had something insane happen today, and I was able to break away a little bit earlier, and I wanted to make a video about it and talk about the obvious and inevitable nature of the assassination of Charlie Kirk. This happened a few hours ago.
I don't know. I mean, saying that it's obvious and inevitable, I don't know if I fully agree with that. You know, I mean, I think that Charlie Kirk felt, I mean, he definitely recognized that what he was doing was putting himself into dangerous situations. That being said, I don't know that you can say that it was inevitable. I didn't really know who Charlie Kirk was too much. I didn't realize that he had such a massive amount of people that hated him the way that they did, to the point that they were willing to take his life.
And it was probably one of the most gruesome and graphic, and this is coming from somebody who grew up on LiveLeak, videos I've ever seen.
That's 100% true. If you have not seen the video, don't go watch it. I saw it. I wasn't even trying to find it. I just got onto Twitter and was looking at it because my wife had mentioned to me the Charlie Kirk thing. I hadn't seen anything about it that day. I've actually been pretty engrossed in work. And yeah, it was like one of the first videos that came up on my Twitter feed, and it was absolutely horrifying. I would not recommend watching it, and I think that Twitter 100% should be making moves to take that video down.
The first time I saw a video, I thought it was AI generated. The guy gets shot in the neck, and blood is spurting out. I didn't even know it could do that. And it was absolutely fucking horrifying to see something
it
like
was
that
terrible.
happen in front of a massive audience of people. Now, if you don't know who Charlie Kirk is, Charlie Kirk has been a pretty noteworthy, like controversial guy. He's a conservative. He goes to a lot of college campuses, does live debates. This is a pretty popular format nowadays, and Charlie Kirk has been popularizing it and utilizing it now for many years, and he's even featured in South Park recently because of it. Charlie Kirk definitely is not a super radical right-wing person, but I would say that he's more of the moderate to, kind of extreme right-wing. Very, very, I would say, lukewarm, though, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with him there with Charlie Kirk's take. Again, I haven't watched him a massive amount. I have, of course, seen some of his more radical takes, but I also know that there's been times when he's been willing to speak out against the right-wing party as well, against far rights, and that he's not, I wouldn't say that I would consider him someone that is an extremist, that is far right himself. I think that he is definitely on the right. He is 100% conservative, but I don't think that he's like one of the crazies.
Least especially, and this is where we're going, especially compared to now. And what I think is going to happen now, because obviously these shootings like this don't really happen inside of a vacuum, and they never do, they never have. And I think that the situation that we have right now is that there is a tremendous amount of political violence that is advocated for, promoted, and allowed to exist on social media that has turned up the temperature in all political conversations, all social conversations, and all discourse on the internet in general.
I agree with his take here, with what he's saying 100%. It is insane the amount of advocating for violence that happens online. And this is not just no names, nobodies, like they're doing it too. But there's also massive streamers that do this, and there are massive content creators and massive figures that have a following that will come out and put these like cryptic messages out that are clearly intended to incite violence in some way or another. Absolutely.
To a point where it's almost unrecoverable. You have people that are out there all the time advocating for violence, advocating for people to get killed. Somebody needs to take care of this guy. Somebody needs to deal with this. I wish he were dead. Won't somebody do it? The 8647, all of the crypto messaging and all the doxing, right? Why do you dox somebody? Why do you post a person's home address? It's to make other people that are insane, like the person who killed Charlie Kirk, it's to give them the ammunition they need to kill that person and to put that person's life in danger. That's why they're doing it. And so that's the reason why they want to find out.
Yeah, absolutely it is. I think that doxing should be a crime that carries, I don't know, probably like a minimum 5-year prison sentence. If you are willing to put someone else's personal information, their address online, especially someone that might be a political figure, their location, things like that, with the intent that someone is going to harm them, I 100% I think that you should go to prison for that.
The identities of ICE agents. That's the reason why they want to find out the identities of Tesla owners, like at the beginning of the year. It's so they can destroy their car
crazy.
And destroy their lives.
People attacking all these Tesla drivers.
This isn't necessarily a one-sided thing. I think that in the last 5 years or so, especially since BLM, it's been a like 90% left-wing thing. But that doesn't mean that the 10% right-wing people are right either. But I do think that now you're going to
yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know about it being like a 90% left-wing thing. Maybe, I do think that there has definitely been an imbalance of, I would say an imbalance of political violence in the US right now towards, or stemming from left-wingers. I 100% could see that. It seems like you had mentioned the beginning of the year with the Tesla thing. I mean, it feels like it's hard to win. Like 2024 or 2022 or whenever, if you buy a Tesla, you're praised by left-wingers because you are being an active role in reducing like emissions and doing things that are better for the environment and things like that. Oh, you bought an electric car. We're so happy, blah, blah, blah. Versus the other side being like, I don't want like screw fucking electric car. I want my gasser. I want the noise. And then just a couple years later, because the switch has now been flipped on Elon Musk, oh, if you're driving a Tesla, you must be a Nazi. You must be a terrorist. We've got to burn your car down. We've got to dox your address, things like that. There were so many stories that were ridiculous about like moms with kids in their car when people were stopping to intimidate them or to damage their vehicles, things like that. And it's sad. I don't know what the solution is. I don't know that I would fully agree with the idea that like most violence as a whole in America has been initiated by the left within the last like 5-ish years, like he's saying. Political violence, I would 100% agree on.
See a lot more right-wing people balancing out those scales.
The
fact is that
you
can take a knife to a gunfight all you want, and you can think that you're honorable, but you're going to end up being dead. And I think that's what right wing people have done for a very long time. They've tried to speak above the political violence, they've tried to advocate above it and not try to stoop down to that level. But the issue is that a lot of these social media companies.
I agree. I think that the right has for a long time tried to like stay above that level. Um, I think the reason that the perception of that is so off today is because I don't think that you see it actively from President Trump. And I think that was like one of the issues with the Charlie Kirk thing is uh, is people seemed, and I didn't watch the full video from Donald Trump, but it seemed like people were pretty upset that he might have started attacking like the left in that video, as opposed to saying like we need to unite as Americans against this. And I will say I don't think that Donald Trump is very good at really unifying the country. I don't think he does that really. I think that he's good at unifying his side, but I don't think he's good at unifying the country. I think he is actually very polarizing with that. I think that he is good at driving a deeper wedge into our country, and I don't think that that's a good thing. But I think that that's probably one of the reasons why it might be viewed as the opposite of that, because again, with Trump being in office, I don't feel like there's been a lot of content put out to really try and like bring the temperature down.
Have expressed literally zero desire to even do the bare minimum of moderation. I think that two of the worst actors are Twitter or X and Reddit. Both of these platforms are full of a bunch of extremist nut jobs that not only should have their accounts banned, but they should probably be put in mental institutions. And I think that now I find it to be kind of interesting taking a step back for a week or so and seeing how many people are coming around to the inevitable reality that this is the only path forward. There are so many people in society now that are just completely unhinged, under-medicated, and really just completely insane that you can't have a person like that running wild out in society. They cause problems for themselves, not to mention everybody else around them. And I think that the society, we need to have an honest conversation about how to deal with these people in a way that, and I'll be real, I don't really care about the people that are crazy. Their well-being and the way that, things are for them. Of course, obviously, I wouldn't want it to be bad, but it's certainly not important. What's really important is all of the people who aren't crazy, making sure that people that are not crazy, that are good actors, that are law-abiding citizens, are able to live a life of peace, a life of prosperity, and a life without fear.
Yeah. I can agree with what he's saying here. I don't know that I would go so far as to say that I don't care about these people that are having like some of these mental issues and things like that in the world today. I definitely care about them, and I think that ultimately, I think that ultimately recognizing that every person has value, every person has worth, and that every person deserves to live, is important still. And I don't know what the answer would be here. I 100% agree that I think that something needs to change socially. And I'm not sure exactly what the answer is to that. One thing I can say for sure, this is just a personal opinion of mine, but I think that the LGBTQ community, I think that they need to separate themselves from the transgender community. I think that the LGB side of that needs to separate themselves, because I think that right now, as things stand in our country, I think that the transgender community is viewed as highly destructive. And I don't think that it's all of them. I think it's a loud minority. And I think that that's kind of what he's talking about here, is that with every community, Democrats, Republicans, the LGBTQ community, everyone, it doesn't matter what you're a part of. I think that massive damage is being done to these communities because the loud minority is making radical decisions and is doing things that are going to irreparably damage their own communities. And the reason I say that I think the LGBT community or the LGB side of this community should separate from the transgender side of the community at this time is because I think that there's a real hatred being developed for the transgender community in the United States right now. I think that the things that have been shown, the violences that have been committed and things like that by those loud minorities in their community are doing irreparable damage to their community. And I think that it's going to get worse. And so if it was up to me, I would personally separate those just so that the other side of this community can continue to make progress and can continue to grow in their own way until things are figured out within their community.
Of going on the subway, for example, as at the recent event as well.
That was
and
terrible.
I think that every single person in the world deserves to live in a place like that. And I don't want to see, America turn into a PvP server. And it sure seems like it is.
It is.
And I think that in order to prevent that from
It's a
happening,
COD lobby.
we need to have honest conversations about what do you do with people that, get arrested 14 times. And it's not even a question, right? You put them in jail and you throw away the key and you compel them to work, and that way you can make the money back from imprisoning them forever. That's the way that you solve that problem. It's very simple, actually. But for some reason, the way that makes people feel has made them unwilling to look at this obvious truth. If you look in history, this is what we've always done in history, and it's because it works. And the problem is that now we have so much of the discourse that's dominated by emotional thinking, that's dominated by the most unstable, the most virtue signal, the most, ridiculous performative empathy possible, and that's defining a huge political voice in the country.
Yeah, I agree with him 100% here. The performative empathy part of what he said is crazy. The amount of shit that people are willing to eat that they just shovel into their faces in order to be like the good guy, in order to be viewed in the right light, is wild. And this is why people like Asmongold are hated. This is also why people like Charlie Kirk were hated, because they're not willing to. They're not willing to eat the shit. And they're not going to fake empathy for a person, an organization, a group, anything, when it's not something that they agree with. It's not something that aligns with their values, their morals, any of that. And I think that that is a big issue in the US right now. I don't know what all is truth and what all is not from the subway thing. I know what he's talking about. That was an absolutely horrible, horrible thing to happen. But I've seen a lot of things circulating on social media about that, and I don't know what's true or what's not. Someone said something like the judge was paid off to let him out. I saw another thing that said that he was let out on the promise that he won't do it again, or something like that, something along those lines. But it's true. I think that America needs to go back to a 3 strikes you're out system, where, I'm sorry, but if you're someone that's going to commit the same crime over and over and over again, or escalate your crimes over and over again to the point that you're spending multiple times of your life in jail or in prison because you can't get your stuff together, yeah, I think that you should be someone that is taken out of the system then. If you cannot integrate with other human beings without making poor choices and putting yourself in prison, then I don't think that you should be allowed to play. Sorry, if you're going to be a kid, we're going to treat you like a kid. And what do you do with a kid that can't make good decisions? You take them away from their friends, or you put them in timeout, right? You separate them. That's what needs to happen.
This has become a tremendous detriment to everyone. And I think that with people like the shooter that probably shot Charlie Kirk, with that guy in the subway that stabbed that Ukrainian woman, or with that trans shooter that shot up the school, one thing that's common among all of them is that these people, in almost all cases, were verifiably nuts beforehand, and nothing ever was done about it. And until
Yeah.
we can stomach the idea of solving problems like that before they happen, we're going to keep having problems. And I think that with Charlie Kirk, it's very obvious that
I agree. I think like what he said right there, solving these problems before they happen, that's something that in literally like almost every scenario is something that's good, right? Like if you apply that same logic to a corporation, uh, corporations that are proactive are much more successful than corporations that are reactive, right? And same thing with everything. Like you could apply it to sports even if you wanted to break it out into like a football team or something like that. A football team that is going to be proactive in learning how to stop their opponent, learning how to win, is going to be much more successful than a football team that is reactive, right? The one that prepares, the one that watches film before game day, the one that is shows up to the field ready and that knows, hey, they've got Derrick Henry in the backfield, but we need to take these steps to stop them. They're the ones that are going to be more successful against that than the ones that are just going to show up without having done any preparation. And that's a big issue right now in the states. We are not being proactive with the laws that are being passed and with the punishments that are being doled out and with being preventative with these things. We are being strictly reactive. And I understand like you can't be proactive in the sense of like just straight up lock people away before they've committed a crime. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is being proactive in taking these steps to ensure the safety of others. Someone should not go to jail 14 times and be let out on the streets. It shouldn't happen. I was just reading another story about another person that was in jail for essaying a child, and they were let out on probation and immediately basically essayed another child. Why is this happening? How is this happening? Be proactive and be better. That's all there is to that.
That the amount of political violence and advocating for political violence that's happening on the internet has turned up the temperature and created an environment and a culture where this type of behavior is normal. And not only is it normal, but it's actually encouraged. And the problem is that now people are acting on it. And you're starting to see this happen, and I think it's going to continue getting worse. I don't think Charlie Kirk is going to be the last one, but I think that we will look at Charlie Kirk's death and see it as a turning point in this topic. And what I'm really trying to get at here with this entire point is that right now we are at a extremely pivotal moment. And I think that what's going to end up happening is that right-wing people are not going to continue to turn the other cheek. They're not going to continue to just, oh, well, this is just a crazy left-wing radical. I think you're probably going to see right-wing people doing the same thing to left-wing people.
Yeah, that's my biggest fear with what happened yesterday with Charlie Kirk is I don't know that people realize how angry so many people are. The number one thing that I've been seeing on social media is I'm so angry. I'm at a loss of words. I'm so angry. And I think that anger will lead to extreme activity. I think that we saw the similar type of reaction when the George Floyd thing happened. I don't think people recognized or took seriously how angry the American people were. And as a result of that, it led to massive extreme activity happening, cities being burned down, and it was just like a chain reaction that just kept happening. And I think that this event with Charlie Kirk is reflecting the same type of a pattern where US citizens are extremely angry over something that happened. And I think that someone triggered something yesterday that I'm hoping we don't see massive amounts of violence and destruction from, but it would not surprise me at all if those types of things did stem from this.
And honestly, while I don't think this is a good thing, I certainly don't really feel that sorry for them, because a lot of left-wing people have no problem advocating for violence, or at least using coded language in order to advocate for violence. The fact is that there's a certain level of intellectual dishonesty that goes on in situations like this, where it's considered, oh, well, this isn't actually what they meant, and no, this is actually some others. No, it is. It's exactly what they mean. They're trying to advocate for killing people that they disagree with. That's what's happening, and there's no talking around it. And to the extent that you try to, you're insulting the intelligence of anyone that you're speaking to.
Yeah, it is a big issue that people are not allowed to exercise free speech in this country. If you disagree with someone at all in any way, then you're just like a super dick that needs to die, and that's not the way we should operate.
I think that now you're going to start seeing a lot of right-wing people end up doing this to left-wing people now, even more.
Yeah, I think it's going to get worse.
It's very clear that these social media platforms are not going to moderate this behavior. The FBI, for whatever reason, just refuses to deal with or have any degree of accountability for dealing with these obvious.
The adjusting of the hair to try and cover the bald spot is a little crazy. He was sitting there and he looked at his monitor, and out of his corner of his eye, he saw himself in his OBS or whatever he's using. And he saw that bald spot and felt the need to push the hair up, just give it a little nudge back over in that direction.
Terrorists that are in the country, and because of that, I think you're going to start seeing an uptick of violence from right-wing people as well.
I do.
And this
I agree.
Is going to be, in my opinion, I don't really think the word is justified, because it's not justified, but the word is expected. I think it's going to be expected. The fact is that, again, you bring a knife to a gunfight, you're going to lose. And don't be surprised when you keep bringing guns to gunfights and then somebody else decides to start shooting back. I think that's what's going to happen. And I think this is a degradation of society as a whole.
Absolutely.
And ultimately, the real burden of responsibility here doesn't really fall on influencers, and I don't think that it falls even on the commenters themselves. I think it falls primarily on the government. The fact is that the government, there are already laws that permit, explicit calls to violence. There's already laws that permit the types of stalking and doxing that people engage in online. And one of the big things that is a misconception is that people like me want new laws. We want any form of extra censorship at all. I certainly don't want that, and I don't know anybody else that does either. But what we do want is we want the existing laws to be applied and to be enforced in an...
No, people do want censorship. They just want censorship for others around them. 100% people want censorship. They just want everyone they disagree with to be censored and not themselves, obviously.
Accurate and a fair way, which is clearly not what's happening. And really, the government not doing that and giving this asymmetrical, in my opinion, advantage to left-wing people to fully and with complete freedom practice genuine terrorism on a daily basis, and then, congratulate each other about how moral and how good they are for doing it because of something bad that happened in Palestine, or something bad that Donald Trump did 3 years ago. This is just simply a response. This is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so, and I think that that's probably what it's going to take for these left-wing people to realize what a bad idea what they've been doing is. Because until it starts happening to them, until they start having people that are their friends, or their like icons that they look up to, the same way people looked up to Charlie Kirk, until they start seeing those people get killed, I don't think it's really going to be real for them. And unfortunately, I think that's the path that we're...
I think that's true. I'm thinking about what he just said about how, like, until the left starts seeing their icons and their own people getting killed, that it's not really going to resonate them with what's happening. And I think that that's where the big difference is between what's happening on the left versus on the right. It seems like I'm putting my perspective in line with those on the left and how they're going to react when they see this. I think that they're going to see this and say, what do you mean when they start being killed? They've already been killed. But I think what the difference is that he's talking about here is that it feels like the people that have been killed that the left is upset about are stature-wise not the same, I think is what he's saying here. Like, for example, I think that he might be thinking of the comparison of like George Floyd to Charlie Kirk. George Floyd, when he died, that upset a lot of people, understandably so, right? But Charlie Kirk, when he died, also upset a lot of people. One person is not like the other, right? George Floyd was, I don't think he deserved to die in any way, but he was certainly not an influential political activist. He was not someone that was doing the same types of thing as what Charlie Kirk is doing. And I think that's what he's talking about here. I think he's talking about, like, until the left starts seeing people that they adore and follow, they're like heroes, I guess you could say, until they start seeing them die and become a victim of this type of political violence. I think he's saying that that's when it won't start to click until that happens. He might be right. I don't know. But, you know, I think people are real mad, and I think that could be something that we see in the near future. I would certainly, if I was a Democratic leader or an outspoken person for the left, I would not be out right now. I'll tell you that much. Because people are mad. People are angry.
Headed down because of the government and social media companies and every
I
other
do agree with him here, though. I think that the responsibility does fall. I think the responsibility does fall primarily on the government and on the social media companies. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the fact that I logged on to Twitter and I opened that, and one of the first things that I saw was this video of Charlie Kirk being murdered, was horrendous. I don't think that that video should be circulating on the internet at all. I think that things like that need to be taken down. I think that social media platforms need to be working hand in hand with law enforcement agencies and things like that, and that they need to be responding to these calls to violence, at least to some degree. I'm not saying that every single person that tells someone or that makes a violent claim online needs to be arrested or put in jail, but I do think that they should be looked into. I think that that is something that should be looked into. If I were to walk up to someone on the street, put my finger in their chest and say, I'm going to kill you, and they were to call the police, that would 100% be a warranted response, and I would get in trouble for that. Why is it that if I were to do the same thing online, that nothing would happen? Unless it was to someone that mattered, right? I couldn't go on Twitter or X and make a post on there that said that I was going to hurt the president. I couldn't do that. I would be investigated immediately. But I can do that for any other person, any other citizen, any other just average person like Charlie Kirk. Someone that is not an elected official, that does not have governmental protections. You can do that, and you shouldn't be able to. It is no different making those claims online as opposed to in person. In the world today, it's not different. It's the exact same thing. The internet is everywhere, and it is just as easy to get someone's information and find out where they are and make these claims a reality as it would have been in 1995 to walk to your neighbor's house and threaten them.
This problem and ignored it entirely. So the death of Charlie Kirk and the assassination of him should not come as a surprise to anyone. This should be something that everybody could have expected. All you had to do is read Twitter for an hour and you could have told me this would have happened, of course. Same with Reddit. And until that core problem is addressed, you will continue to see a rapid decline in any type of social discourse, and I'm actually kind of afraid to see what's going to happen next.
I am too.
Because
I think it's going to get worse.
Getting worse.
Yeah.
And I don't see the reason for it to stop. And so anyway, I wanted to make this video because it's obviously a topic that, I've been talking about this a lot for the past few years now, and I was laughed at a lot, and people were telling me it wasn't that big of a deal, and oh, they were joking, they were joking. Well, I saw the video. That wasn't a joke. And the reality is that those jokes and everything create a culture and an environment where the actual actions are more permissible. And you also have people that are the ones telling the quote jokes that are talking around just, directly, saying that this is a bad thing and it shouldn't be tolerated for any reason. You have, I don't want to go through a bunch of different names, but anybody, this is the way I look at it. I'm just going to make a categorical judgment here.
Okay.
Is that any content creator or anybody like this who has been advocating for violence against a person in an extrajudicial way.
I wonder who he's talking about here. It couldn't be Hasan Piker, could it?
I'm not talking about trying people who they disagree with for treason. This is advocating for the judicial process to be used against people they disagree with. I think that's fine. But whenever you have people that are saying things like 8647, or anybody who's advocating for any form of extrajudicial justice, extrajudicial justice, and basically vigilante justice on people who they disagree with politically, you have to realize that all of those people, I think, have made themselves acceptable targets. And I think that there's a lot and millions of people out there nowadays.
I think people are going to be upset about that, making themselves acceptable targets. Yeah, I don't know. I agree that like this call for vigilante justice, I think that is actually kind of said pretty eloquently, is the biggest issue here. The call for vigilante justice to change something, right? Like when you dislike someone and you want to see them gone, so you put an EPB out there, whatever it's, you put this call out there on social media for the world. Anyone, please answer this. Like it is some sort of bat signal that you can shine up into the sky, and like-minded people can also start shining their lights until some insane person with a Batman suit and a gun decides they're going to do that for you. They're going to be that hero that you needed. I think that needs to stop.
That see that. And I think that should be extremely worrying for them. It should be terrifying. But the reality is that they have created that environment themselves through their own actions, through their behavior, and through their own words. You reap what you sow. And I think that things are about to get a whole lot worse. So anyway, guys, I wanted to make this video and talk about it. And that's about all I've got to say. So
yeah, so my overall thoughts on kind of what he's saying here, I think that what he's getting at here is kind of some of the big concerns that I have with this whole issue. I could see things getting much, much worse, and I feel like I just want it to be done. I want to be done living in a country that suffers from these issues. This is a sickness that is plaguing our people right now. At the end of the day, we all bleed red. We're all Americans. And I just want to see people get along. I want to see people coexist without being the same person. You don't have to all agree. You don't have to be on the same page with everything. But we also don't have to be filled with hatred. We don't have to wish violence upon everyone that is against us. Everyone thinks that's a great idea until it happens to them. And it will happen to you. If we start living in this world where every time someone initiates a call to violence against someone will respond to that, then one day someone will initiate a call to violence against you. And there will be someone that will respond to it. And that sounds like a pretty bad place to live in. I don't want to live in that America, and neither should you. So that's pretty much all I've got, guys. Stay American, my friends.